Assalamualaikum, my name is Nabila Naima. With my teammates Atika Nabila, Sharifah Nabiha and Nur Nabila will be presented about halal food in Islamic tourism and hospitality. Food is a market category in tourism that comprises tourist visiting destinations where food and beverages are the primary reason for their visit. Therefore, the halal food sector has a lot of potential and it should be developed and promoted in order to meet the demands and desires of all Muslim tourists. With that, the significance of this topic is that it emphasizes the importance of halal food. Nevertheless, there are a number of concerns that have arisen in relation to the concept of Islamic tourism and hospitality, one of which is the issue of fraud. As a result, Muslims are required by Islam to seek out halal goods and services. Malaysia in particular was among the first countries to see the potential of Muslim tourism and responded rapidly by improving and updating the facilities and services available to Muslim tourists in order to adhere to their religious views. Following that, the objective of this study is to examine laws and regulations related to halal food for the Islamic tourism and hospitality sector in Malaysia, as well as to highlight the issue related to fraud, halal certification, and to increase awareness on halal food. Hence, the topic was chosen to introduce the concept of halal food in Islamic tourism and hospitality industry. For further information, I will pass to Sister Sharifah Nabiha to continue.
So next, we move to the research methodology. The nature research of this study is based on library-based research. Thus, in this study, the information gathered are based on desktop research regarding the halal food industry in Islamic tourism and hospitality. The data collection for this study is based on the secondary data collection. According to Heaton 2004 defines secondary data analysis as a research strategy which make use of pre-existing quantitative data or pre-existing qualitative data for the process of investigating new questions or verifying previous study. The focus in this study is based on the comparative study. Comparative research in communication and media is commonly understood as the contrast among different level of units such as regions, countries, subnational region, social milieux, language area, and cultural techniques at one point or more point in one time. In this study, Korea and United Arab Emirates, which is UAE, are being compared based on the halal food sector with several significant elements which the comparative study helps to determine the main concept that have been implied for both countries regarding the halal food industry in Islamic tourism and hospitality.
Thank you, Sister Nabiha. Now I will explain on the conceptual and background of halal food in Islamic tourism and hospitality. What is the meaning of halal? Halal is the Arabic word that means allowed. In Islamic language, it signifies lawful according to Islamic principle. It is most commonly associated with eating. However, it refers to any form of behavior that is allowed in Islam. Haram, also known as non-halal, is the polar opposite of halal. This refers to something that is forbidden according to Islamic principles. Although it is frequently used in relation to food, it can also allude to other illegal behaviors in Islam such as stealing, gambling, and corruption. What about halal food? All foods that can be eaten according to Islamic teachings are called halal foods. This is basically any food that does not fall into the category of haram or prohibited. In Islam, all food and drink are halal except those clearly forbidden in the Quran. Muslims around the world accept the Quran as the perfect book of instruction and guidance for mankind and believe in the Quran as God's final revelation. The general understanding is that food and drink must be free of pork, alcohol or intoxication, poisons, harmful components, or unclean aspect. Any meat must be slaughtered according to Islamic law, known as zabihah. Thus, Allah has mentioned in Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 172, believers eat of the pure things wherewith we have provided you for sustenance and give thanks to Allah if it is Him that you serve and worship. As consuming halal is an order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, an essential part of Islam, Allah has repeatedly emphasized the consumption of halal in the Quran, which has been mentioned in Surah Al-Mu'minun, verse 51. All messengers eat from the pure foods and were righteous. Thus, halal food is important, especially among the Muslim community, due to if a believer who disregards Islam's dietary commandments put himself in dangers both in this world and the next. In this life, he loses the ability to have any of his good deeds and du'as acknowledged by his Creator, and in the hereafter, he loses the worst loss ever imagined, namely the denial to be admitted to paradise. It also has been confirmed in a few of hadith, which are Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu reports that the Prophet of Allah said, "A time will come upon the people wherein a man will not bother what he intakes, whether from halal sources or haram." Hadith Bukhari. Move to the concept of halal food in Islamic tourism and hospitality. As today era, the Islamic concept, or also known as Sharia compliant, has become a major player in the global market, including everything from food and beverage products to finance and culture activities. Most countries has begun to promote tourism items with a halal or Islamic emphasis as a new trend in lifestyles. Even countries that are not traditional Muslim, such as Korea, Japan, Australia, Thailand, New Zealand and others. Thus, the concept of halal food is related with Islamic tourism, where the products and services it provided is not incompatible with Islamic ideals and ethics, and strongly tied to the concept of halal and haram in Islam, where it can be viewed from religious and industry perspective. In terms of halal food, it is associated with the religious perspective, which also linked with both industry perspective of food manufacturers as well as health and safe food perspective, where it plays an important role for Muslim consumer in Islamic tourism. However, as the concept of halal food has evolved from being an identification mark of religious observation to assurance of food safety, hygiene and reliability, it is now universal terminology and accepted not only by Muslim but also non-Muslim consumers. Today, people look halal not only for religious but also for health and safety reasons. What we know about shubha. Shubha can be defined as for any food or drink which lies within the grey area and does not fall clearly under the halal or non-halal category, or in other words, it also known as a food under questionable or dubious. For instance, lecithin is one of the food that has a shubha ingredient due to the food can be derived from plants or animal. The lecithin can be considered as halal if it comes from the plants, but non-halal if it comes from the animals that are not slaughtered in accordance with the Islamic law, such as pig. Thus, Muslims should be avoiding consuming shubha food or drink until the status becoming clear. And halal food from the Sharia perspective, it can be considered to meals or items ingested by Muslims that are allowed or legal under Islamic law. It also can be referred to any other words that indicates or is likely to be interpreted as authorization from the Islamic religion to consume or use specific things. Such a statement must imply that the things in question does not consist or contain any part of matter of an animal that a Muslim is forbidden by Sharia to consume. Besides, the process, storage and preparation of food or drinks also need to be correct in Sharia law, such as slaughtering of animal by using a correct tools and slain in the name of Allah. Next, I will explain on the halal food in Malaysia. So, the background of halal food in Malaysia starts since 1960. The Malaysia government has put in place essential policies to promote the country as a leading global halal hub. Thus, there is a few of long-term master plan has been strategized, including the second industrial master plan 1966 until 2005 and the third national agriculture policies 1998 until 2010. So, the focus is in line with the country's search for new sources of economic growth that are compatible with the country's social and economic qualities. Thus, Malaysia today has been globally recognized and viewed by the other country as a leading nation in the global halal tract. Besides, Malaysia has taken a holistic strategy to presenting itself as a global halal hub, which set it apart from other countries with comparable ambitions. This is because to becoming a leading exporter of halal products and services, Malaysia aspires to be a one-stop shop for other halal-related For other halal-related activities such as legislation, inspection, certification, enforcement, research and development, testing, analysis and the establishment of laboratory facilities. This strategy will enable Malaysia to acquire a larger share of global market for halal products and services, which is rising in both Muslim and non-Muslim countries. In order to support the development of robust and competitive halal business in Malaysia, the Malaysian standard and certification are promoted as global benchmark for halal products. Thus, the Malaysian government charged the Department of Islamic Development Malaysia or JAKIM with promoting the standards and certification as the global standard for halal products and services. So, JAKIM was founded in 1981 as the Islamic Centre in Kuala Lumpur with the goal of becoming the federal government organisation or agency in charge of administering Islamic-related matters. However, JAKIM has become the formal historical note on the formation in 1st January 1997 when the government founded the Department of Islamic Development Malaysia, JAKIM, to take over the duty of Islamic Affairs Division or known as BAHIS. So there is a few of responsibility of JAKIM has been given as an important authority in Malaysia, includes legislation, evaluating and changing Islamic legislation in order to standardize them among states and the central government. This is to help Malaysia maintain its status as an Islamic country. Since then, it has evolved into one of the most important federal Islamic agency, with JAKIM being a Malaysian government institution with the goal of becoming the leader in the development of superior civilization for the Ummah. It was also founded to bring together the progress and development of Muslims in Malaysia. Other than that, JAKIM also holds a responsibility to advise the Conference of Rulers, state governments or state Islamic religious affairs councils on problems pertaining to Islamic law, administration or education with the goals of improving, standardizing or improving the legislation or administration. To summarize, the establishment of JAKIM is unique in compared to other government agency. However, for the halal logo, it should be issued by the JAKIM, Jain or Main and contains a few important things that Muslim consumers should be emphasized, which are an egg cups stars at the center of the circle, the Arabic word halal at the centers of the stars, the word halal in Roman alphabet below it, the word Malaysia written in Roman alphabet and Arabic within the circles of the logo. Two small 5-cup stars are positioned to separate the Roman alphabet from the Arabic word mentioned. Next, I will explain on the law and regulation related to halal food in Malaysia. There is a few of law and regulation that can be used pertaining to halal food, which is the first is Trade Description Act 2011. Trade Description Act 2011 is an act for the purpose of promoting good trade practices by prohibiting false trade description and false or misleading statements, conducts and practices in relation to the supply of goods and services and to provide for matters connected therewith or incidental thereto. TDA 2011's main goal is to standardize the granting of halal certificates. JAKIMs and the respective state Islamic religious councils have been designed to issue halal certificate for any food commodities or associated services as of January 1st, 2011. Other companies that had previously been authorized to issue halal certificates would no longer be permitted to do so. Thus, the Minister issued the Trade Description Definition of Halal Order 2011 and the Trade Description Certification, the Marking of Halal Order 2011 under Section 28 and 29 of the TDA 2011. Consumers are protected by the laws against unethical trade practices with halal products and services. Second is Malaysian Standard MS 1500/2009. So this Malaysian standard provides practical guidance for the food industry on the preparation and handling of halal food, including nutrient supplements, and to serve as a basic requirement for halal food products and food trade or business in Malaysia. This standard does not contain all requirements which may be required for certification. So halal certification may be sought by arrangement with the competent authority in Malaysia. The requirements under Malaysian Standards MS 1500/2009 is management responsibility, premises, devices, utensils, machines and processing aids, hygiene, sanitation and food safety, processing of halal food, slaughtering process, processing, handling, distribution and serving, storage, transportation, display, sales and servings of halal foods, packaging, labeling and advertising. So next is Malaysia Standard MS 2565-2014. This Malaysia Standard describes the general guidelines in manufacturing and handling of halal packaging. It serves as a basic requirement for halal packaging for halal products in Malaysia. So there are special terms and definition which is packaging referred in this standard includes anything in which or any means by which products is wholly or partly cased, covered, enclosed, contained, placed or otherwise packed in any way whatsoever and includes any basket, bell, tray or receptacles of any kind whether open or closed. And the halal packaging, which is packaging contains ingredient and shall be manufactured and fulfill some conditions. So the requirement for food services management under Malaysia Standard MS 2565-2014 have 9, which is the management responsibility, personal and responsibility, halal assurance system, training, documentation, premises, devices, utensil, machine and processing acts, hygiene, sanitation and safety, and lastly is storage, transportation, display and sales of halal packaging. Last but not least is Sharia Criminal Offences Federal Territories Act 1997, which is this act is to provide for Sharia criminal offences and matters relating thereto. In the Part 3, offences relating to the sanctity of religion of Islam and its institution, and Part 5, miscellaneous offences in this act has been provided some section according to halal food, which the offended will get offence due to the criminal that there have been done related to halal food and drinks which contrary with Sharia law and could harm Muslim consumer. For example, in Part 3, offences relating to the sanctity of religion of Islam and its institution, Section 19, intoxicating drinks, Clause 1, any person who in any shop or other public place consume any intoxicating drink shall be guilty of an offence and shall on conviction be liable to a fine and exceeding 3,000 ringgit or to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 2 years or to both. And Section 9, Clause 2, any person who makes, sells, offers or exhibits for sale, keeps or buy any intoxicating drink shall be guilty of an offence and shall on conviction be liable to a fine not exceeding 5,000 ringgit or to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 3 years or to both. Part 5, miscellaneous offences, Section 42, abuses of halal signs. Any person who displays on or in respect of any food or drink which is not halal, any sign which indicates that such food or drink is halal shall be guilty of an offence and shall on conviction be liable to a fine not exceeding 5,000 ringgit or to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 3 years or to both. Next, I will pass to Sister Nur Nabila.
Thank you, Sister Atika. Next will be on the comparative study, which are the comparisons of halal food sector in Korea and United Arab Emirates UAE. Firstly is the halal certification. In UAE, every eatery and food brands that claims its food to be halal is scanned and the details of the used ingredients will be under the loop, just like the processing, the plantations, chemical use and the packaging, as well as the slaughtering of animals. All process should comply with Sharia regulations. Following that, the approval of halal certifications and logos for all food items claiming to be halal by the Emirates Standardization and Metrology Authority (ESMA. The UAE has become the first country in the Middle East to implement this regulation. In addition, halal certification for cosmetics and fragrance, as well as clothing and accessories, will be included in these standards. This is part of His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum aspiration to establish Dubai as the global center of the halal economy. Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum is Vice President and Prime Minister of United Arab Emirates and the ruler of Dubai. Meanwhile, in South Korea, they have a variety of halal certification categories, in contrast to Indonesia, Malaysia and other Muslim countries, which rely primarily on the single organization or religious government sector to organize halal certification. South Korea does have different types of halal certification categories. Based on the diagram, there are 4 different types of categories of Muslim-friendly restaurants in Korea. Each of it has been certified by the KMF Korea Muslim Friendly Organization, which is one of the halal certification authorities. Number 1, halal certified. KMF has approved the restaurants, ensuring that everything served is halal. There is no meat or alcohol in the dish, and it's all halal since it's already been certified. Next is self-certified. There are no haram ingredients or cross-contaminations from prohibited products in any of the meals. Muslim restaurants owners certify their restaurants as halal. Their chef or owner are Muslim, and there is a halal cuisine available. Next is the self-certified. There are no haram ingredients or cross-contamination from prohibited products in any of the meals. Muslim restaurant owners certify their restaurants as halal. Their chef or owners are Muslim. There is a halal cuisine available and also alcohol free. Number 3 is Muslim friendly. Although certain halal foods are available, alcohol may be offered. Their chef or owner are Muslim. There is a halal cuisine available, alcohol be sold, no pork or pork free, and pork may be served at hotel restaurants or buffet that are labeled as Muslim friendly. Lastly is the pork free. Meat, whether chicken, lamb or beef, is allowed, but pork is not. Although the restaurant does not have a halal menu, pork is not used. It is possible to sell alcoholic beverage. There will be no pork on the menu, but use chicken, lamb or beef, and alcohol can be bought and sold. Next, the second comparison is halal food strategy. In UAE, there is an analysis found that people trust and confidence in halal supply chain was affected by the country where the food came from. Importing from Muslim minority countries requires an halal food certificate (HFC) from UAE approved body in the supplier country. This is different from Muslim majority countries, which do not need an HFC for export because their supply chains are considered halal in UAE. Production in Muslim majority countries is a major topic because once the UAE has approved the import of the goods, there are no more regulations in the country where the goods are made. Muslims, on the other hand, have concerns about the halal integrity of products that come from the countries that are not Muslim, like raw meats import from Australia and Brazil. When it comes to regulation, this is not just an issue for the UAE. Other Muslim majority countries like Malaysia have similar regulation and concerns from buyers. In the world, there are so many halal certification bodies that UAE could not logistically accredit them all. It is because only those that are been approved can be used to export products to the UAE. This means that the many products cannot be imported from non-approved certification body. Foreign food imports, on the other hand, rely on UAE authorities to act responsibly to make sure proper HFC standards are applied, though how well this is done is still up for debate. The trust in the state regulation is still not universal, and there is a lot of doubt about halal integrity in the UAE. In other parts of the country, up to 3/4 of people who shop for food are Western expats, people from South Asia, Africa or Far East, or people from other countries as well. This means that the amount of inventory in store is based on where they are and what people want to buy the things. Meanwhile, in Korea, the South Korean government's halal food strategy was released in June 2015 by the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs, and it focused on the three main issues, which are halal industry developments, second, fair increase, and lastly is the distribution plan. Framework expansion is done in the halal business division by arranging data center advantage concerning halal goods, as well as the developments of creature butcherings and creations offices. The developments of halal products for export must go through the halal confirmation screening procedure in accordance with certification standards. To strengthen the system, the government formed a partnership with the Islamic State and the country that has a majority of Muslim population. The Korean government's main purpose in 2015 was to assist the UAE with the Korea United Arab Emirates Business Forum in Abu Dhabi. The key reason for these UAE selections as an important partner is the two countries' long-standing financial cooperation, notably in the area of food trade and imports. South Korea continued to pursue partnership opportunities in the halal market with countries where majority of the population is Muslim, such as Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand. This is being done as part of the campaign to expand the Korean product system in these countries. In Southeast Asia, the effects of Korean mainstream society are very strong. Next is the comparison on halal branding. In UAE, brands like Al-Islami is capitalizing on lack of faith in halal integrity and authenticity in their branding efforts, labeling item as the real halal, for example. The Islamic brand's image was built on the dependability of its halal food items, with halal embracing all parts of the company. Al-Islami launched halal rennet-based processed meat and cheese, and in 1991 opened a plant in Dubai Jebel Ali free zone to produce a processed food. Customers in the UAE selected Al-Islami as the firm with the most halal food integrity and the most explicitly promoting item as Islamic, using terms like halal and Islamic. In UAE, similar branding was growing rapidly in marketing efforts, with names like Islamic Company and Islamic Co-op being used in the highlight product conformity with Islamic dietary rules. Al-Islami has further boosted its own image by creating state-of-the-art research facility to create and test new products at the Dubai headquarters, as well as having lasting connections with the governments, demonstrating the significance of their halal food research at the state level. Meanwhile, in Korea, Korean food products will be more seen in Muslim countries. This is due to the fact that Korean food manufacturers have been aggressively seeking halal certification for their products and the production lines. For example, Nongshim, a snack and noodles manufacturer, is one of the many enthusiastic Korean business seeking for halal certifications. In 2011, the business established halal certified Shin Ramyeon and UK Jang Noodle. In 2013, CJ Cejedang, another food processor, gained halal certification from the Malaysian Department of Islamic Development, JAKIM, for a total of 433 of its products in 3 categories, such as bowl rice, crispy seaweed snacks, and sliced kimchi. Malaysia and Singapore have been receiving CJ's halal certified foods. It intends to expand its exports to the new nation, including Indonesia and the Middle East. Besides that, Our Home, a food company, has received halal certification from the Korea Muslim Federation KMF, the country's official halal certification agency. In 2014, the KMF granted the company halal certification for its seaweed product. Our Home can now address the demands of Muslim consumers, particularly in the Southeast Asia, Europe, and North America, with its halal certified products. Next, I will pass to Sister Naima to continue the presentation.
Thank you, Sister Nur Nabila. Now we move to the findings where we discover the requirements on getting halal certification, which is important for Muslims guests in tourism and hospitality sector. With that, there are several basic halal application requirements for the applicant before applying halal certificate, such as they have become a member of the SSM or any other government agency. Second, they already registered with Food Safety Information System of Malaysia. They also must have a valid business license from the local authorities. Fourth, they must make sure everything is in fully operations, which at least 3 months. The operation must only halal items that are produced or processed. And lastly, all employees must have a copy of their food handling cost certificate, typhoid vaccination documents, and an ID card. Since halal certification satisfies the Sharia legislation, which is a prerequisite for Muslims, it gives confidence to all Muslim consumers. With that, JAKIM certified halal items are halal products that are safe to eat or use, nutritious, and high quality. Therefore, there are 3 types of certification schemes, which are products like food and cosmetics. Second is premises like hotel, kitchen, franchise outlet and restaurant. And third is abattoirs, which is a place of slaughtering or processing animals. Above all, there are three categories of applicants that qualify to apply the certificate, which are producer or manufacturer. Second is trader or distributor, and the last one is subcontract manufacturer. After the discovering of application requirements, let's see the process of halal certification. The first process is pre-confirmation, which is the desk audit review and job confirmation. For the first month, there will be internal audit by consultant and registered through My Halal. This stage also will preparing the documentation and reviews such as menu, ingredients, and list of products. The second month is the submission to JAKIM or JAIN, where the payment will be done. Also the external audit processing by JAKIM, and the final confirmation for JAKIM's panel. And the last stage is the post-certifications. Nevertheless, there are few issues and challenges in Malaysia where fraud and misuse of halal logo and certificate have become hugely spread. The Ministry of Domestic Trade, Cooperatives and Consumerism and JAKIM filed 120 lawsuits alleging misuse of the halal logo in tourism and hospitality sectors throughout September 2011 until September 2015. It is a large number of businesses have been discovered which it does not conform with the guidelines set out by competent authorities. Thus, it violates the Trade Description Order 2011 and Trade Description Act 2011. The Trade Description Definition of Halal Order of 2011 in Section 3 stated, offences related to contamination of food and goods by any parts of prohibited animals, alcoholic, poisonous, hazardous, impure elements and halal services, halal food and goods preparation, processing or storage are associated with prohibited groups of people according to Hukum Syara and Fatwa. Second, the Trade Description, Certification and Marking of Halal Order of 2011, where Section 3 and 4 stated offences related to food, goods and services supplied by Muslims as well as non-Muslims intended to be described in any other manner to indicating halal, not containing halal logo by competent authorities, and offences related to imported food or goods not marked with halal or certified as halal by the foreign halal certification body as recognized by JAKIM. Third is Trade Description Act of 2011 in Section 29 stated offences related to violation of ministerial order for securing halal certificate, marks and trade description. To sum up, the suits will be filed when any industry or company that use the halal logo without a halal certificate or that has not been approved by JAKIM. Next is it a label as halal but not from Malaysia Halal. Third is mix of halal and non-halal substances under the Trade Description Order. For the second issue is the corruption scandal of halal products, where a cartel had been bribing customs officials for 40 years to import and sell meat that were not slaughtered according to Islamic customs or sourced from approved stakeholders. They are group brought frozen beef from China, Ukraine, Brazil and Argentina to Johor, Malaysia, where it was repackaged. Kangaroo and horse meat were among the imports, which were then combined with and marketed as halal beef, causing uproar among Muslim buyers who said it was disrespectful to their Islamic beliefs. Therefore, JAKIM has opened up its public comments area for the Malaysia procedure for the recognition of foreign halal certification bodies 2021 to allay public fears. Following that, Malaysian quarantine and inspection services have increased their enforcement efforts, as well as Malaysian Department of Veterinary Services, which they have tight standards for meat importations, including the use of an authorized slaughterhouse for slaughter and chilling, and all chilling, processing, transportation, and other services. Overall, it can be seen that the requirements of getting halal certification is essential for the tourism and hospitality player to achieve satisfaction of Muslims guests, increase national economy, and for the better future of Ummah and Islamic world. A proper process and procedure made by the authorized parties influence the overall performance of halal products and services. Thus, the issues and challenges involving the halal industry pointed out the current situations of halal products influence the needs of Muslims community not only in Malaysia but also worldwide. That's all from me. I will pass to Sister Sharifah Nabiha.
Next, we move to the recommendations. Based on the issues and challenges that have been highlighted in this study, the abuse of halal logo and halal certification is a significant matter that needs to be tackled carefully. The increasing demand on halal food among the Muslim consumer has led to several times of revising regarding the law and regulations pertaining the halal certification and logo. Thus, the fraud, misuse of halal logo and the corruption that happened along the process in implementing the halal food process has increased the darkness and confusion among the Muslim consumers. Thus, the recommendation include Malaysia should consider integrating and coordinating the process and procedure for proper investigation and certification to avoid any fraud and misuse of the logo. In order to meet the halal requirements, the food procedure standard need to follow which in line with the global benchmark such as ISO 9000, Codex Alimentarius, QA, HACCP, GHP, and the Standard Operating Procedure, which is SOP. Other than that, the food manufacturers should be encouraged to certify their products with certificated with halal logo from JAKIM. By this, there will be no fraud regarding the ingredients used in the products. An official certification and logo by JAKIM will surely reduce the darkness of the Muslim consumer regarding the product offered in the marketplace, as products that carry the halal logo could be more important than carrying the international standardization organization, which is ISO or the similar certifications. Last but not least is the authority also plays a significant role to ensure that fraud, misuse of halal logo and certification, and corruption regarding the halal products are prevented by putting the fine or mulct to the irresponsible agencies. The hygiene, safety, and assurance of halal product are very important among the Muslim consumer as it related to the religion matters and it involved the Sharia law. Thus, a strict prevention and a proper inspection regarding the manufacturer's halal logo, halal certification, and the halal assurance systems are very important to avoid any fraud, misuse of halal logo and certification, and any corruption regarding the halal food industry in tourism and hospitality.
Thank you, Sister Sharifah Nabiha. So to conclude, this study gives a broader notion of halal cuisine in Islamic tourism and hospitality which affected all Muslims around the world. This study discovered issues pertaining to fraudulent halal certification which will involve the laws and regulations. This is because halal food fraud is a sensitive and important issue for Muslim consumers. Above all, the authorities should be more proactive in supervising and implementing the law as well as imposing penalties on individuals who engage in halal food fraud. Also, greater understanding and awareness among Muslim tourists about halal food fraud items is also capable of decreasing the purchasing fraudulent products. That's all from our group. Thank you.